I'll make 2 points and then answer the question that's being posed. The first point is there's a lot of discussion in the context of talking about SOPA and HIPAA about whether IP theft is real and how you quantify it. From where I sit, it is a real and meaningful problem. Whether it's happening in China, as there are a number of articles today because of the Vice Premier's visit, or it's happening here on the internet, I think it's a real and significant problem, and I think the technology sector recognizes that. The companies I represent are really the global leaders in tech in this country, and I think there's no question that IP theft is a significant problem internationally as well as here. Two, the approach for dealing with that shared problem was significantly flawed. It was remedied over time and as the legislative process moved forward, but it was the initial approach was one that was highly problematic. And in fact, if Mitch and I had sat down from the start to come up with a solution to that problem that we both defined, I think we would have done a much better job. Whether it was in the definitions, which I do think were overbroad. In fact, some of the definitions and languaging about what constituted a site dedicated to the theft of U.S. property seemed as if it came from a Jon Stewart skit. It was just sufficiently unwieldy as not to make sense. In spite of the references to Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 65, I do think that there were significant due process concerns about the scope of powers being given to content providers, folks I used to work for, as well as the ISPs, who I've spent a lot of time dealing with. There are also a number of issues that relate to cybersecurity, including the desire to have redirection as a part of this process and defining through a tech mandate how that would occur, which created some questions around the compatibility of that with DNSSEC. And so, yes, piracy is a problem. We should be working collaboratively to try to address it. The way the approach for dealing with it was problematic. What is the lasting institutional lingering impact of the SOPA-PIPA campaign? I think I'm a bit more unequivocal than Mitch in thinking that it has changed things for the better and likely for good. One immediate manifestation is in the cybersecurity bill, which is progressing, at least on the Senate side, immediately, where in our discussions with members, there is a real concern about doing the type of due diligence that Mitch was talking about in advance of putting forward legislation. And so I think members of Congress will be a lot more careful, as well as their staff, in making sure that the advance work is one that is thorough. And I think that's great. On K Street, and I think it will also have a lasting impact, because my sense is, and I've been back in California for 2.5 years, so it's a narrow sense, at least a narrow period of time, is that there was a significant reliance on 2 Ps as a part of moving the political process. So one was on policy, which I think in the tech sector we thrived in. You know, we are largely a world of engineers, and so we think if we have the most logical linear arguments, they'll prevail. And so we focused on our policy advocacy, and that was really it. The second P is the political, and there are others who are a lot better at it than the tech sector, but supporting candidates, contributing to their campaign, identifying folks who can be champions, that will continue to be the same. The transition that I see that SOPA and PIPA has brought, which I think those bills magnified a transition that was occurring anyway and brought it to the fore in a much more significant way, is the third P, which is participatory democracy and the medium and the speed at which you can leverage that. And so in our own thinking and planning, we are working a lot harder to make sure that we're not only advancing our policy perspective and working on the political connections, but also making sure that we're creating a broader environment for success. And that means being more connected to grassroots communities than previously, but also making sure that we're leveraging the technologies that we're actually developing as a medium for doing something meaningful with that grassroots. So one of our priorities right now is cybersecurity. Another is getting more spectrum into the marketplace. The question is, can we, for us, is combining those three Ps, can we actually affirmatively advance something rather than just stalling it or killing it? It's a lot easier to get people riled up to say, I don't want that, or I don't want this, rather than getting them to affirmatively say, we think we need more R&D funding. And for us, that will be the test going forward, is whether we can use that change in an affirmative and positive way, hopefully in partnership with the content community.